The morning light crept over the jagged hills of Urindor 7, painting the alien landscape in pale gold. Captain Marcus Kane stood at the edge of the colony's makeshift outpost, squinting at the horizon. The humans had arrived on this planet only 3 months ago, drawn by the promise of rare minerals buried beneath its crust. Their mining operations were modest, barely scratching the surface of the planet's riches, but every day brought new discoveries and new dangers. Marcus knew that even a calm morning could shift into chaos in an instant. His squad moved behind him, checking equipment and weapons with quiet efficiency. They had adapted to life on Urindor 7 faster than expected. Supplies were limited, but ingenuity kept them alive. Simple traps, makeshift sensors, and improvised defenses had become second nature. The humans were far from the sophisticated armies of the Galactic Union, but they had something else: adaptability. Marcus had seen it in every member of his team, and it was what gave him confidence in the face of the unknown. Suddenly, the sensors flickered. A soft warning beep pulsed from the device strapped to his wrist. Marcus crouched, scanning the horizon. The movement was subtle, almost invisible, blending with the terrain. He signaled his squad to hold. "They're close," he whispered. "Get ready." The humans had faced alien creatures before, but nothing like this. These beings were quick, intelligent, and coordinated. Marcus had studied their patterns from satellite scans, small, clawed scouts that moved like a single organism, communicating with signals invisible to human eyes. Then they appeared. 4 of the creatures emerged from the rocky slopes, moving with eerie precision. Their bodies were sleek, almost insect-like, with chitinous armor that gleamed under the morning sun. Their mandibles clicked as they approached, sensing the humans' presence. Marcus counted silently, 4 against 8 humans, not ideal but not impossible. "Hold your fire until they're closer," he ordered. His team obeyed. The humans had learned long ago that reactionary attacks often led to disaster. Patience and strategy were their weapons. The creatures stopped, tilting their heads as if analyzing the humans. Then, with sudden speed, they lunged. The squad opened fire, energy bolts cutting through the air. 2 creatures were knocked back, shrieking, but the other 2 dodged with uncanny agility. Marcus rolled behind a boulder, firing his weapon in short bursts. Each shot needed to count. The creatures were faster than anything he had encountered in training simulations, but humans had resilience on their side. One of the creatures leaped onto a rock, aiming to flank the squad. Marcus signaled Private Lena Ortiz. She sprinted to intercept, throwing a smoke grenade that erupted in thick, acrid clouds. The creature stumbled, disoriented. Lena's quick thinking saved them from being surrounded. "Good work," Marcus muttered, keeping low. Every member of the squad was moving with purpose, relying on instinct and experience rather than technology. That was humanity's edge. They were unpredictable. The creatures, though intelligent, relied on patterns. Within minutes, the remaining scouts retreated into the rocky hills, leaving only the echoes of their clicking mandibles behind. The humans exhaled, tension leaving their shoulders in slow waves. Marcus knew this was only the beginning. These scouts were likely part of a larger force, and the real challenge would come soon. Back at the outpost, the team gathered to discuss what they had learned. Maps were spread out, sensors analyzed, and strategies debated. Marcus's eyes rested on the horizon where the hills met the sky. Something watched them. He could feel it, a presence that was both alien and intelligent. "They're not just hunting for territory," Marcus said, breaking the silence. "They're studying us. They want to know what we're capable of." Marcus patrolled the perimeter, alert to every sound. The creatures did not attack again that night, but Marcus knew they were observing. He could almost sense their eyes following every move, analyzing, learning. As he returned to the outpost, an urgent alarm cut through the quiet. The sensors had detected movement, more than just scouts this time. Marcus rushed to the control panel, reading the data. A massive silhouette moved across the plains, larger than anything they had seen. Its form was imposing, armored, and unmistakably commanding. Marcus's stomach tightened. This was no scout. This was a leader. "They've sent someone big," he said, his voice low but steady. The team gathered around, understanding the unspoken threat. The next morning, the alien force attacked. It was unlike anything Marcus had anticipated. The creatures coordinated flawlessly, cutting off escape routes and forcing the humans to fight defensively. Energy blasts scorched the ground, and alien screeches filled the air. Humans fought bravely, using traps, mines, and clever tactics to slow their advance. Every move was a gamble, every decision critical. Marcus spotted the larger figure again, towering above the rest, radiating authority. It moved with grace and intelligence, directing the smaller creatures like a conductor leading an orchestra. The humans realized with dawning horror that this was the alien queen, the central mind controlling the hive. Her presence was commanding, almost terrifying, but Marcus refused to show fear. "We can't fight her directly," Marcus said, "but we can survive this. Focus on the smaller units, use the environment, stay alive, and we'll find a way." Marcus's squad used every trick they had learned, smoke screens, falling rocks, and narrow choke points, to keep the creatures at bay. One by one they drove the scouts back, but the queen remained a looming threat, observing from a distance. As the sun began to set, Marcus realized something crucial. The queen's hive was centralized. All the smaller units relied on her guidance. If they could find a way to disrupt her control, even briefly, the humans could gain the upper hand. It was risky, perhaps suicidal, but it was their only chance. "Listen up," Marcus said to his team, his voice calm but firm. "We're going to do something no one expects. Stay sharp, trust each other, and remember, we're humans. We survive no matter the odds." As night fell completely, the alien creatures retreated, leaving the humans battered but alive. Marcus surveyed the battlefield, noting the positions of the remaining aliens and the queen. Tomorrow they would need to strike, but tonight was for planning, healing, and preparing. In the quiet that followed, Marcus stood alone for a moment, looking up at the alien stars. Humanity had arrived on Erendor 7 not as conquerors, but as survivors. And survival, he knew, required more than weapons. It required courage, strategy, and an unyielding spirit. He turned back to the outpost, ready to face whatever came next. The humans had faced the first test and passed, but the real challenge was yet to come. Somewhere out there, the alien queen was thinking, watching, and planning. Marcus smiled grimly. Let her come. Humans were ready for the unexpected, and no one, not even a powerful alien queen, could predict what a human soldier might do. The night was restless. The humans at the Erendor 7 outpost had barely slept, their minds racing with the events of the previous day. Marcus Kane walked through the camp, observing his team as they tended to minor injuries, repaired weapons, and reinforced the barricades. The scouts had retreated, but he knew better than to assume they were gone for good. They were observing, learning, waiting. And at the heart of it all, the alien queen had been watching, calculating, and preparing. Marcus stopped by a sensor panel, checking the readings again. The devices picked up faint movements beyond the hills, patterns too regular to be random. "They're circling," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. "They're studying us, planning. It's like they're testing us, probing for weaknesses. Patience and strategy will be our greatest weapons. She's intelligent, adaptive, and her hive relies on her control. If we can distract her, disrupt her focus, we might create an opening. One chance. We can't waste it." Marcus had seen it countless times. When humans faced impossible odds, they became unpredictable. And unpredictability was something even the most intelligent alien mind could not fully anticipate. The humans moved out carefully, following the narrow paths through the dense alien forest. Towering plants glowed faintly in shades of blue and green, casting shadows that seemed alive. The air was thick and humid, carrying strange scents that Marcus had yet to identify. Every step was cautious, every sound measured. The scouts appeared first. Smaller than the queen, but still dangerous, they moved in perfect coordination, flanking and probing. Marcus's squad used the terrain to their advantage, ducking behind thick vines, triggering falling rocks, and setting small traps that slowed the creatures. Each successful move bolstered the humans' morale. They were not just surviving, they were learning, adapting, and turning the environment into their ally. Hours passed with careful maneuvering. The humans' goal was not to annihilate the scouts, they were too many, but to lead them into a carefully prepared trap. Marcus signaled, and Lena released a cloud of smoke from a hidden device. The scouts hesitated, their mandibles clicking in confusion. Marcus smiled. Even the queen's best warriors could be thrown off balance with clever tactics. Then came the unexpected. From the shadows, a massive alien warrior emerged, larger than any scout they had seen before. It was one of the queen's lieutenants, heavily armored and moving with surprising speed. It roared, a sound that vibrated through the ground, forcing the humans to brace themselves. "Hold," Marcus shouted. "Don't engage directly, use the terrain. Let it make mistakes." Marcus knew that every second bought them time to prepare for the queen herself. Night fell again, but the forest seemed different. The alien presence was heavier, almost oppressive. Marcus gathered his team around a small fire, sharing rations and plans. They were tired, but their resolve had strengthened. "We've tested them," Marcus said quietly. "We've shown them we're not easy prey. But tomorrow we take a calculated risk. We go closer. We need information and we need leverage. The Queen can't anticipate everything if we move smart." The air itself seemed alive, rustling with movement, carrying whispers of creatures unseen. They reached a clearing, and there it was, the hive. A massive, pulsating structure that seemed both organic and mechanical. Its walls were alive, shifting with a rhythm that Marcus felt in his chest. From the entrance, scouts streamed out and back, and at the center the alien queen hovered above the surface. She was breathtaking and terrifying. Her armor gleamed, her mandibles moved with elegance, and her eyes glowed with intelligence. Every movement commanded her hive, every gesture communicated strategy. Marcus signaled his team to take positions. Observation was their first goal. Direct confrontation was not yet possible. They needed knowledge. And humans, Marcus reminded himself, excelled at adapting to new information faster than any alien hive could anticipate. Hours passed as they watched. The Queen directed her forces with precision, communicating in clicks, signals, and movements the humans could not decipher fully. But patterns emerged. Scouts returned to the hive at specific intervals, lieutenants maintained perimeter control, and there was a rhythm that, if understood, could be exploited. Lena whispered, "Captain, she's relying on the hive structure. If we disrupt her focus, even briefly, the whole system falters." Disrupt the Queen, disrupt the hive. It was risky, but it was their only chance. The humans withdrew under the cover of alien flora, careful not to leave a trace. Back at the outpost, they began preparing. Traps were set along likely alien paths, distractions were planned, and emergency extraction points were identified. Every detail was considered. Marcus spent the night reviewing every strategy, weighing risks against potential gains. Morning arrived with a sense of anticipation. The air was tense, the sky clear, the forest eerily quiet. Marcus led his team toward the first trap point. Each member moved with precision, instincts sharpened by weeks of survival. They were not merely soldiers, they were human beings, capable of incredible ingenuity when survival demanded it. The trap worked perfectly. Scouts entered a narrow canyon, triggering the makeshift collapse Marcus had orchestrated. Rocks tumbled, blocking escape routes, forcing the creatures to scatter and regroup. Marcus and his team moved quickly, staying ahead of the chaos they had created. But the Queen was no ordinary enemy. From a distant ridge, she observed, her movements calculating. She had already anticipated some of the humans' maneuvers and adjusted her hive accordingly. The humans realized that they were not dealing with mindless predators. They were up against a strategist, a leader capable of foresight. Marcus remained calm. That was human strength, adaptability. They adjusted on the fly, leading the remaining scouts into a second trap, a more controlled zone near a natural ravine. Here, the humans had planted energy disruptors, devices designed to temporarily confuse the aliens' sensory networks. When the creatures entered, the devices activated, sending a wave of disorientation through their ranks. The humans pressed their advantage. Scouts stumbled, lieutenants faltered, and the hive's coordination wavered. Marcus felt a surge of hope. Humanity was small, fragile, and underestimated, but in strategy and courage they were formidable. As the battle subsided, Marcus surveyed the results. No human had been lost, though the squad was exhausted. The scouts had been scattered, and for the first time the humans had forced the hive to respond reactively rather than proactively. Lena approached, eyes wide. "Captain, we did it. We actually did it. And maybe, just maybe, we'll find a way to face the Queen herself." Courage, creativity, and determination. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, humans found ways to survive, adapt, and fight back. Marcus smiled grimly. They were just getting started. For the first time, he felt a thrill not of fear, but of anticipation. The next encounter with the alien queen would be unlike anything she had ever faced. And Marcus Kane, human soldier, would be ready to stun her in ways no one expected. The morning air was thick with tension as Captain Marcus Kane led his small strike team deeper into the alien territory. After the previous encounters, they knew that survival depended not on brute strength, but on intelligence, speed, and observation. The forest around them was alive with motion, shadows shifting among towering alien plants that glowed faintly in pale blues and greens. Every leaf, every vine seemed to watch them. Marcus had learned long ago that Erendor 7 was as much a battlefield as it was a living organism. and understanding its rhythms could mean the difference between life and death. "We stay quiet," Marcus whispered, pausing to check the sensors on his wrist. "No unnecessary movements, eyes open. Every sound could be a warning or a trap." Private Lena Ortiz carried the portable sensors, constantly scanning for motion and energy signatures, while Sergeant Eli Harper checked their weapons and quietly instructed two new recruits on how to move without making a sound. Even in the silence, the forest hummed with alien life, distant clicks and rustles that made the human team's nerves stretch thin. After hours of cautious movement, the team reached a clearing. There it was, the hive, a massive living structure that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. Walls of organic material twisted upward, shining faintly as though the hive itself was aware of their presence. Marcus crouched low behind a thick vine, his eyes tracing the movements of the alien scouts patrolling the perimeter. They were fewer than yesterday, but more organized, moving with precision, scanning the area for intruders. "They know we're here," Lena whispered, her eyes fixed on the hive. "They're reacting differently. They're expecting something." Understanding the enemy's behavior was as important as any weapon they carried. He motioned for the team to split into two smaller groups to circle the hive, staying in positions where they could observe without being seen. Hours passed with painstaking caution. The humans noted every pattern, the timing of the patrols, the paths of the scouts, the position of lieutenants. And then she appeared. The alien queen moved gracefully to the center of the hive, commanding the smaller units with subtle gestures. Her presence was mesmerizing and terrifying. She exuded authority, and even from a distance, Marcus felt the weight of her intelligence. This was no mindless creature. This was a strategist, capable of foresight and adaptation. Marcus signaled his team to hold their positions. No engagement yet. First, they had to understand her. From their vantage point, they could see the hive's central nerve, the point from which the queen controlled her forces. It pulsated with energy, almost alive, and Marcus realized that a disruption there could ripple through the hive. But it was risky. Too close, and they would be overwhelmed in seconds. "This is it," Marcus said quietly to his team. "We get close enough to observe and learn, no heroics, no mistakes. We take one piece of information and we leave. That's all we need today." The alien architecture was unlike anything they had encountered, a combination of organic growth and technological enhancement, flowing patterns that seemed both natural and engineered. Each step required caution. One wrong move could alert the queen or her lieutenants. Inside the hive, the air was warm and heavy. The walls pulsed gently, like a living heartbeat, and faint bioluminescence illuminated corridors that twisted unpredictably. The humans followed a narrow passage, careful to leave no trace. Every sound they made echoed softly, magnified by the living structure. It was mesmerizing and intimidating at the same time. They reached a vantage point overlooking a large chamber. From here, Marcus could see the queen in her full glory, directing her lieutenants and scanning the hive. Her intelligence was apparent in every movement, no gesture wasted, every action purposeful. The humans studied her behavior, noting the signals that caused the scouts to move, the patterns in which lieutenants communicated, and the way the hive itself responded to her presence. Lena whispered, "Captain, if we could disrupt her attention even for a moment, the hive might falter. It's centralized, her influence is absolute." Direct attack was impossible. They were too few, too lightly armed. They needed cunning. "We create a diversion," Marcus said. "Something unpredictable, something she won't expect. Humans survive because we think differently, act differently, and improvise. That's our strength, and today we use it." Lena set up a small series of sound emitters and light reflectors to create false movements in a distant part of the hive. Harper adjusted the timing of energy pulses to mimic the approach of reinforcements. Every detail was calculated to draw the queen's attention away from the team's real movements. As the diversion activated, the queen's head turned slightly, her mandibles clicking. The smaller units reacted immediately, rushing toward the source of the disturbance. The humans held their breath, advancing cautiously while the hive's attention was momentarily diverted. They moved through a narrow tunnel, coming closer to the central nerve. The energy pulsed stronger here, and Marcus could feel it through the floor beneath his boots. This was the control point, the center of the hive's coordination. He signaled the team to hold, observing how the queen responded. She paused. For the first time, Marcus noticed a flicker of hesitation. The hive shifted uneasily, as if uncertain how to respond. It was brief, but enough. Humanity's ingenuity had created a crack in the queen's control. Marcus knew they couldn't stay. They had what they needed: knowledge of her patterns, the location of the central nerve, and confirmation that the hive relied on her focus. With careful steps, they retraced their path, leaving no trace behind. Every member of the team felt a mixture of exhilaration and tension. They had succeeded without engaging in direct combat. Humans had survived where raw power alone would have failed. Back at the outpost, Marcus debriefed his squad. They had learned more in a single day than most military units could in weeks. The Queen's strength lay in her control, her intelligence, and her ability to coordinate. But humans had discovered her vulnerability: predictability. Even a brilliant mind could be distracted, and even a small human team could exploit that moment to survive and gather critical intelligence. "We've seen her," Marcus said, "and she's powerful, but she underestimates us. That's our advantage. Humans adapt, improvise, and act unpredictably, and we're about to show her just how unpredictable we can be." The team built new devices, refined traps, and simulated scenarios that might arise in the hive. Every member contributed ideas, using their unique perspectives to improve the plan. Humans thrived in this kind of problem-solving. Their strength was not numbers or raw power, but ingenuity, collaboration, and courage. One evening, as the alien sun set over the horizon, Marcus sat quietly with Lena and Harper. "Tomorrow, we test the Queen again," he said softly. "Not with brute force, but with strategy. We've learned her patterns. We've seen her control. And humans, well, humans are the masters of turning the impossible into possible. We'll show her what humans can do, Captain. She won't see it coming." And no one, not even an alien queen, could fully anticipate the audacity of a human soldier. As the night deepened, Marcus reviewed their plan one last time. The hive was dangerous, the Queen formidable, and mistakes could cost lives. Yet, despite the danger, there was excitement in the challenge. This was what humans were built for: survival against the odds, courage in the face of fear, and brilliance born from necessity. In the distance, the hive pulsed softly, almost as if aware that humans had come close. Marcus felt a chill, but also a thrill. The coming confrontation would test everything they had learned, and humanity's first real steps into the heart of the alien hive were about to begin. And Marcus Kane, human soldier, knew that the unexpected was on their side. No one had anticipated what humans could do, and that uncertainty was their greatest weapon. The forest outside the hive was quieter than usual, almost as if the entire planet had paused in anticipation. Captain Marcus Kane led his team with cautious determination, every step measured, every sound noted. The previous reconnaissance missions had taught them more than just the layout of the hive. They had learned about the Queen's strategies, the hive's rhythm, and the limits of their enemy's awareness. Marcus knew this was the moment to test their plan, to push further than any human had dared before. The sun filtered through the dense foliage, casting long shadows across the uneven terrain. The humans moved in silence, each member of the squad hyper-aware of every movement around them. Scouts were sparse today, likely because the Queen sensed something unusual in the air. Marcus didn't feel relief, he felt tension. He knew the Queen was watching, calculating, and she would strike if she sensed any mistake. As they neared the hive entrance, the team spread out, covering multiple approaches. Lena Ortiz adjusted the sensors, scanning for hidden energy fields or patrols. Sergeant Eli Harper checked the energy disruptors once more, making sure they would trigger at the right moment. Every device, every calculation, every step had been designed to exploit the Queen's predictable patterns. Marcus crouched behind a twisted, bioluminescent vine, surveying the hive. The central chamber glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. The Queen was there at the heart of the structure, her massive form casting long shadows. She moved with elegance and authority, directing the smaller units that scurried beneath her. Every motion she made rippled through the hive, controlling her army with subtle gestures. Marcus felt a chill. She was more imposing than he had imagined, but he also felt the thrill of opportunity. Humans had intelligence, adaptability, and the audacity to act where brute force could not succeed. "Remember," Marcus whispered to his team, "this isn't about fighting everyone. It's about creating an opening, distract, disrupt, and observe. Then we strike carefully and unpredictably." Her massive head tilted, mandibles clicking in rapid sequences. The smaller units scuttled toward the disturbances, leaving gaps in the hive's defenses. Marcus's team moved quickly, advancing through the narrow passage that led closer to the central chamber. The air grew warmer and heavier as they approached the Queen. The walls of the hive pulsated more strongly, responding to her presence. Marcus felt a vibration through the floor, almost as if the structure itself were aware of their intrusion. He signaled the team to slow, every member pressing against the cool, living walls moving like shadows. From the vantage point of the central chamber, the Queen's glowing eyes seemed to scan the corridors. Marcus held his breath, praying their diversion was effective. The hive quivered slightly as the smaller units reacted, giving the humans a small, crucial window to advance. Finally, they reached a position within sight of the Queen. She was magnificent and terrifying, her armor reflecting the pulsing light of the chamber. The energy flowing through the hive converged around her, feeding her control over the units below. Marcus studied her movements, memorizing patterns, searching for weaknesses. He could see the rhythm of her attention, the slight delays in commands, the micropauses that revealed moments of vulnerability. This was their chance. Marcus had planned for this moment, relying on a combination of human ingenuity, environmental advantage, and calculated risk. He signaled Harper to activate a minor energy pulse, creating a flicker in the hive's lighting. At the same time, Lena triggered a sound burst that echoed near the rear of the chamber. The Queen's eyes snapped toward the disturbances, and her attention wavered just long enough. Marcus took a deep breath. Timing was everything. Using a combination of agility and careful positioning, he activated a small, reflective device designed to mimic a swarm of smaller threats. Light and motion danced across the chamber, confusing the Queen's senses. She froze, mandibles clicking rapidly as her hive shifted in response. For a fleeting moment, she was stunned, her control faltering. The smaller units paused, disoriented, unsure of where to move. The humans held their position, observing the effect of their actions. It was incredible. What they had learned and executed had created a pause in the Queen's command, and the hive was reacting unpredictably for the first time. Marcus realized that this moment, brief as it was their greatest advantage yet. "Now," Marcus whispered, "we gather what we need and retreat, stay sharp." The Queen's eyes followed them, but the distractions continued to hold her focus away from the humans' true path. Suddenly, one of the Queen's lieutenants noticed them. A massive creature lunged toward the intruders, claws extended. Marcus reacted instinctively, using the terrain to his advantage. He triggered a small collapse of organic growth, sending vines and debris to block the lieutenant's path. The creature struggled but continued its advance. Lena activated a flash device, temporarily blinding it, giving the team the precious seconds they needed to pass. The Queen's attention wavered again, and Marcus realized something profound. She had never encountered a species that could improvise under pressure, that could adapt in ways her hive could not anticipate. Humans were small, fragile, and underestimated, but in creativity and courage they were formidable. They reached a secondary chamber, a quiet area where they could rest and review their observations. Marcus looked at his team. "We've done it," he said. "We've seen her. We've disrupted her, and we've survived. Remember this, we are humans. We adapt, we improvise, and we fight in ways no one expects." This was more than survival. It was proof that humanity could face overwhelming odds and emerge alive, not by power alone, but by intelligence, courage, and ingenuity. Even the Queen, with all her strength and command, had been stunned by human audacity. That fleeting moment of vulnerability had opened a door, one that Marcus knew they could exploit in the coming battles. Humans might be small, but they were unpredictable. And unpredictability, Marcus thought, was a weapon no alien hive could fully control. The team began their careful retreat, moving back through the corridors they had memorized. Each step was cautious, every sound minimized. The Queen, regaining her composure, sent scouts in pursuit, but the humans' preparation had anticipated this. Energy pulses, reflective devices, and environmental traps slowed the pursuers, giving Marcus and his team the chance to slip away. Outside the hive, the air was cool and welcoming after the oppressive warmth inside. Marcus paused, taking a moment to survey the landscape. The forest seemed alive with observation, but the humans had done what many thought impossible. They had confronted the heart of the alien hive, studied the Queen, and survived. Lena approached, eyes shining with a mixture of relief and excitement. "Captain," she was stunned. Even for a moment she couldn't react. "That's incredible. We may be small, but we are clever, courageous, and relentless. That's what she doesn't understand, and that's what will save us in the battles ahead." Humanity was no longer merely surviving on Erendor 7. They were learning, adapting, and preparing to challenge the hive in ways no alien could anticipate. Marcus sat quietly outside the outpost that night, gazing at the alien stars above. The queen had been stunned by a human soldier, a fleeting, impossible moment that had shifted the balance, even if just slightly. Marcus allowed himself a rare feeling, pride, not for himself alone, but for humanity. Humans had survived impossible odds before and would do so again. Somewhere deep inside the hive, the queen recovered, her mandibles clicking in frustration. She had underestimated humans. She had not anticipated the courage, ingenuity, or audacity of a species so small yet so formidable. And Marcus knew that next time she would be watching even more carefully. But humans had already proven that they could think beyond expectation, improvise, and survive. That was the essence of humanity. Not strength, not numbers, but creativity, courage, and unpredictability. And Marcus Kane, human soldier, was the embodiment of that truth. He smiled grimly. The queen had been stunned, and no one, not even the most powerful alien in the galaxy, could predict what humans might do next. The morning on Erendor 7 broke with a pale, golden light that seemed almost peaceful compared to the tension of the past days. Captain Marcus Kane stood at the edge of the human outpost, surveying the terrain. The hive was visible in the distance, a living structure that pulsed faintly, almost as if it were aware of the humans' planning. Marcus's squad gathered quietly behind him, each member ready, alert, and focused. Today was the day they would attempt their final maneuver, a calculated plan to demonstrate to the Queen that humanity was not to be underestimated. The humans moved carefully through the dense forest, every step deliberate. Scouts were fewer than before, suggesting that the Queen had adjusted her strategy, anticipating intrusion. Marcus knew that her awareness would make the operation more dangerous, but he also understood that their advantage lay in unpredictability. Humans were not machines. They could adapt, improvise, and act in ways the Queen could not foresee. As they approached the hive, the squad split into two groups. Lena Ortiz led one group to deploy sensory disruptions along the perimeter, creating false signals that mimicked larger human forces. Sergeant Eli Harper and a small team positioned themselves near natural choke points, ready to slow any alien reinforcements. Marcus led the strike team toward the central approach, keeping to shadows and using the terrain to their advantage. The hive loomed ahead, alive and pulsing. The Queen was visible at the center, her eyes glowing faintly as she observed her surroundings. Smaller units moved in organized patterns, responding to her commands. Marcus signaled his team to hold. The moment had come to act. Lena activated the sensory devices, producing noises and light pulses that suggested multiple human squads advancing from different directions. The Queen reacted instantly, mandibles clicking and antennae flicking as she assessed the situation. The smaller units scattered to investigate the disturbances, creating gaps in the hive's defenses. Marcus felt a surge of hope. Humanity's ingenuity had created an opening, and it was now up to them to exploit it. The strike team moved quickly, advancing through the partially cleared path toward the central chamber. The walls pulsed with energy, a faint vibration running through the floor. Marcus could feel the hive responding to the Queen's attention, every pulse synchronized with her focus. They reached a vantage point where the Queen's form was fully visible. She radiated authority and intelligence, her presence commanding the hive's operations. But for the first time, she was slightly off balance, her attention divided. Marcus whispered to his team, "Now is our chance. Stay focused, precise, and unpredictable. We strike without brute force. Our weapon is ingenuity." The Queen's eyes followed the diversions, mandibles clicking rapidly. For a brief moment, her command over the hive faltered. Scouts paused, lieutenants hesitated, and the hive itself seemed to hesitate, unsure how to respond. Marcus seized the opportunity. Using his agility and the element of surprise, he activated a small device that emitted a high-frequency pulse targeting the central nerve of the hive. The energy disrupted the Queen's connection to her units momentarily, creating chaos among the smaller creatures. It was a calculated risk, and it worked perfectly. The Queen's eyes widened in surprise, and her mandibles clicked in a rhythm that suggested she had not anticipated such audacity from a single human. The squad moved swiftly, mapping critical energy nodes and observing the Queen's reactions. They had learned more in this operation than in weeks of reconnaissance. The hive's reliance on the Queen's focus was now fully confirmed, and the humans had exploited it without direct combat. Marcus realized that the momentary disruption had proven a vital truth. Humans could achieve the impossible not through strength, but through courage, adaptability, and creativity. As the team began their retreat, the Queen regained her composure, sending scouts to pursue them. Marcus had anticipated this. The retreat path was lined with previously prepared diversions. Flash devices disoriented pursuers, narrow chasms slowed their approach, and the energy disruptors continued to confuse the hive's coordination. By the time the humans reached the forest's edge, the Queen's forces had been slowed significantly. Marcus allowed himself a rare smile. Humanity had struck directly at the heart of the hive and survived. Back at the outpost, the team gathered to debrief. They shared observations, updated maps, and refined strategies for future encounters. Marcus emphasized what they had learned. The Queen's intelligence and authority were formidable, but her reliance on centralized control created vulnerabilities. Humans, with their adaptability and unpredictability, could exploit those moments. Lena approached Marcus, her eyes shining with a mixture of relief and excitement. "Captain," she actually paused. Even for a moment she couldn't react. That's proof humans can challenge her. Humans are underestimated because they are small, fragile, and unconventional. But courage, intelligence, and ingenuity can change the outcome of any battle. And today, we've shown that even the most powerful alien cannot predict human audacity. Humans reinforced the outpost, set up early warning sensors, and trained in preparation for any future counterattacks. But there was a new sense of confidence. Marcus's squad had faced the hive and the Queen, disrupted her control, and survived. It was not victory in the traditional sense, but it was far more significant. It was proof that humans were a force to be reckoned with. One afternoon, as Marcus patrolled the perimeter, he observed movement in the distance. The Queen had not abandoned the area, but her forces were more cautious. She had learned to respect the humans' unpredictability. For the first time, Marcus realized that the aliens might reconsider their approach, not because of superior firepower, but because humans had demonstrated resilience, intelligence, and the willingness to act where others might hesitate. That evening, the team gathered around a small fire, sharing rations and quiet conversation. Despite exhaustion, there was a palpable sense of achievement. Humanity had confronted the heart of the alien threat and survived not by numbers, not by weapons, but by courage, adaptability, and strategic brilliance. Marcus looked up at the alien stars above, contemplating the events of the past days. The Queen had been challenged, her hive disrupted, and her perception of humanity had been forever altered. Humans were small, yes, but they were resourceful, fearless, and unpredictable. And unpredictability, Marcus knew, was a weapon no alien could fully anticipate. Lena smiled at him. "Captain, do you think she understands now that humans aren't weak?" She has been forced to acknowledge something she never expected, that humans are clever, courageous, and relentless. And that realization changes everything. From now on, humanity will be seen differently, not just by this Queen, but by anyone who underestimates us. The Queen's forces moved more cautiously, and the hive's activities suggested a reconsideration of strategy. The humans had survived, learned, and adapted faster than the aliens could counter. Their audacity had earned them respect, even in the eyes of a species that valued strength and intelligence above all else. Marcus spent time with his team, discussing what they had accomplished. They were tired, but their spirits were high. They had achieved something extraordinary, surviving against overwhelming odds, disrupting a hive controlled by a formidable Queen, and demonstrating the indomitable spirit of humanity. As night fell, Marcus stood alone outside the outpost, looking toward the hive. Somewhere deep inside, the Queen was recovering, recalculating, and reassessing. But Marcus knew one thing for certain. Humans had proven their worth. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and brave, and that was a combination no alien could fully anticipate or control. He allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. Humanity had arrived on Erendor 7 not as mere survivors, but as a species capable of ingenuity, courage, and audacity that even the most intelligent alien mind could not ignore. The forest was silent, the stars glowing softly above, and Marcus felt a profound sense of hope. Humans had faced the impossible and lived to tell the tale. And somewhere in the depths of the hive, the Queen had been forced to reconsider her assumptions. Marcus turned back toward the outpost, ready to share the news with his squad. The mission had been more than survival, it had been a statement. Humanity could endure, adapt, and triumph in ways no one expected, and that truth would echo across Erendor 7 and perhaps beyond for years to come. No one had expected a human soldier to challenge the alien queen and disrupt her hive. But Marcus Kane and his team had done exactly that. They had stunned the queen, survived the impossible, and proved a fundamental truth about humanity. Cleverness, courage, and adaptability could triumph where strength alone might fail. As the night deepened, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Humanity was small, yes, but formidable in ways the galaxy had yet to fully recognize. And for the first time on Erendor 7, humans were no longer prey. They were a force to be respected, feared, and admired. The Queen had been challenged. The humans had survived, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again.